Well, hello, 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 everybody. This is Reverend Karen coming at you from the back 40 of the Wookie Ranch in northwestern Nevada, broadcasting another episode of Fearlessly Feral Living. Out here, it's beautiful and it's peaceful. And yes, I'm a good half an hour away from the nearest gas station and the nearest grocery store. But what this means is that wide open space is both a lifestyle and a spiritual teacher. And I love that. This podcast explores practical, real life ways to apply science of mind and new thought, spiritual principles and practices so that you can create a deeply successful and meaningful life and live creatively, courageously, and successfully. Fearlessly Feral Living is a focused ministry of Centers for Spiritual Living, devoted to cultivating a world where every person lives wild, awake, free, and unapologetically alive. In today's episode, I want to speak to humility. Now, I've always thought that humility was widely misunderstood. And when I began my spiritual journey, I had this vague awareness that I had a misunderstanding of what it really was and what it meant for me and how to live my life. Today, I've got some clarity. So I want to share that clarity with you and pass on some of the research I've done and how I'm feeling about humility these days. I've always thought, again, that humility was widely misunderstood and that it's an inherited spiritual idea for us. Now, humility has always been dressed up as smallness, as silence, as staying in your place, as not claiming who and what you are and not claiming your successes. I have news for you. That is not humility. That's what we call domestication. And yeah, we inherited it. But the good news about an inheritance is that we don't have to keep what we inherit. We can give it away or sell it or simply release it. And in doing so, we can create an opening to replace it with something better. Fearlessly Feral Living does not ask you to shrink in some sense of misunderstanding of what humility really is. So I have some evidence for you to prove that humility is more about living our truth than hiding it. Because when I was creating this episode and writing about it and researching it, I thought, Karen, you have to do some research for this. You can't just state what you think humility is without backing up your opinion with some concrete evidence. Otherwise, it's just your opinion. And you know what they say about opinions. Everybody's got one, right? So here's some research. And again, humility is about knowing our worth and claiming it. It's about acknowledging our successes and the work that we did to achieve them. So, of course, I went to Ernest Holmes first in my research, where I always go because Ernest Holmes wrote the Science of Mind textbook. And he has a great definition of humility in there. It's in the glossary in the back. And he says, true humility does not mean self-abasement, but is rather that attitude which Emerson tells us is willing to get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. Don't you love that? Humility is a willingness to get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. So I did a little further research about those words, bloated nothingness. And I came across some wisdom in another Ernest Holmes book called The Philosophy of Emerson, because I wanted to go to, okay, Emerson said the phrase originally. Let's see what he meant by that. So, in that book, which Holmes wrote about Emerson and what he had to say about things, he says, our bloated nothingness is simply being closed minded. Our bloated nothingness is being unteachable. Our bloated nothingness is thinking that what we've learned in the past is what is. It's, it happened, it's there, it's part of us, it's never going to change. In this little book, Holmes said about bloated nothingness, it means we unlearn our wisdom of the world. So we unlearn what we thought we knew in order to get rid of our bloated nothingness. Now, see, the wisdom we've learned is wisdom that we've inherited mostly, unless you've learned it recently through your own research and study through an avenue of self-awareness. But I'll get into that more later. We've inherited wisdom from our parents, from society, from school, from church, and it's not always wisdom. It's just tradition. It's just things that were passed down that mean nothing to us when we really sit down and take a look at them. Ernest Holmes says that this is false valuation that we've placed on things. So we learn these things when we're kids, we give it value, but the value's false. This is why I so strongly advocate and harp on and preach on and don't let it give up and boom, boom, boom. This is why I advocate personal self-awareness as the primary spiritual practice in my book called How to Live Fearlessly Feral. Coupled with oneness. It's got to be coupled with oneness, that spiritual awareness. But yeah, spiritual awareness and oneness, primary spiritual practices. Meditation and treatment comes next, guys. So anyway, if you've ever seen me talk on a panel or something where we ask people what their spiritual practices are and they say meditation and treatment, I'm like, no, sorry. Anyway, back to humility. How can we know if the value we place on something we think we know, we think we've learned, is real or something we simply inherited unless we do spiritual practice and get our bloated nothingness out of the way and become teachable? If we aren't humble, we can't shine our light. It's a paradox. If we aren't humble, we cannot shine our light because our light's hidden with false values. And if we can't shine our light, we can't live fearlessly feral because we can't eliminate limitation from our lives because we're using false humility as an excuse to keep us closed down, to keep us shut down, to keep us limited. And right here, always in times like these, I'm reminded of that beautiful thing that Marianne Williamson talks about, that quote. I'm going to read it to you. I'm sure you've heard it. It gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling every time I read this. So here we go. Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So think about that statement when you're thinking about the role of humility in your life. So here's another description of humility, which I, like its author did, keep in a plaque on my desk. I'm actually going to reach over here and show it to you. It'll probably show it backwards, but there it is right there. That's the plaque. It's right here on my desk, and I see it every time I walk into my office and sit at my desk. and I use it to remind me of my own truth. This thing was written by Dr. Bob S., who was the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and this is what he had to say about humility. He said, "Humility is perpetual quietness of heart. It is to have no trouble. It is never to be fretted or vexed, irritable or sore, and to wonder at nothing that is done to me, and to feel nothing against me. It is to be at rest. When nobody praises me, and when I am blamed or despised, it is to have a blessed home in myself where I can go in and shut the door and be at peace as in a deep sea of calmness when all around is seeming trouble." And when I read that, every time I come into my desk, I go within and I feel that peace. I go within and I feel that deep sea of calmness. And then I go about my business and do my work in the world. And that, my friends, is what humility really means to me. It's being able to go within and feel the presence of spirit or God or whatever you want to call it. And because you feel that, you're at peace. And I don't know about you, but these days when there's so much chaos in the world, when we are bombarded daily with nonsense and news about history being replaced and about entire people, populations of people being told they do not deserve a place in this country by virtue of where they were born or the color of their skin, when we are being lied to about a false sense of patriotism, and about real painful things that are happening every single day in this country and across the world, we have to have a place where we can go to and be at peace. Because if we allow that outer stuff to get to us, we're not going to be effective. We're going to be prey to misery and depression. We're going to be angry all the time. We're going to get prickly. We're going to start limiting our lives. We're not going to be living fearlessly feral on any level. So we have to go within first. This is my advice to you. If you're feeling the angst about what's going on out there, settle in, get quiet, go within, connect with whatever that thing is. God, source, energy, I don't care what you call it. Connect with it. That place of peace is within us. When we can go there, then we can be more effective in the world. And then we are no longer a prey to misery and depression. And guess what? If the thought of going within scares the living shit out of you, and you just don't want to do that, you don't want to go there, going within is a dangerous neighborhood, then you need to buy my book, How to Live Fearlessly Feral. You need to stop everything and go to my website, KarenLindsley.com, and go to the store and buy my book right now. And you need to go and read it. And then there's a year-long monthly guide in the back. You need to do that. And call me. Call me if you do that. I'll talk to you about it. I'll answer your questions. We'll have discussions. Life will be good. If you do that, I guarantee that by the end of the year, you'll be able to practice humility by going within and being at peace there. So if you're Christian and the Bible is the last and only word for you, I've got some more news for you about humility. It's in the Bible. One of the main places, one of the most beautiful places we can find it is in the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes are in a number of places in the Bible, but I'm going to reference Matthew chapter 5 here. And I'm going to reference just a small section. Now, before you take off, those of you who are not Christian and hate the Bible, before you take off running or skip this part or go fast forward from this part, listen because I've got a nice little translation for you. Here's a small section of what it says in there. It says, "Blessed are the humble, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Now, in modern language, in accurately translated words, the word blessed means delighted, and the kingdom of heaven is within us. So what this statement says is, delighted are those who go within. And I like to say it like this: delighted are those who place more importance on their connection with God than they do on material things. Here's a little bit more from the Beatitudes. It says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. What does meek mean? Teachable. So we have delighted are the teachable. Now, what does the earth signify in the Bible? The earth signifies our outer experience, all out there. This section, this one word, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. You know what it's telling us? Delighted are the teachable. So it's telling us to be teachable, and if we are, we will be delighted. And then we shall have control over our outer conditions. Remember the we believe statement? We believe in control of conditions. Well, guess what, guys? Here's where it comes from. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Delighted are the teachable, for they shall have control of conditions. Now, for those of you who are saying, I have no desire to control conditions, I don't want to do that. Well, that's fine, but you're limiting yourself. Come on, shine your light, dudes. Shine it. Stand up. Be empowered. Take responsibility. Go out there and grab it and get it. That's what being humble is all about, in my opinion. And I'm basing it on these words from all kinds of sources. The Bible, the Science of Mind textbook, teachers like Mary Ann Williamson. Now, if you've listened to my podcast at all, you know I love spiritual psychology. It's my niche, it's my gig, it's my thing. I love it. It's what I love to do. So, in spiritual psychology, being humble or practicing humility means being able to recognize when we are in fear, which, by the way, personal self-awareness, can I say that? Please do personal self-awareness so you know when you're in fear. It means knowing what our default action is when we get in fear. Basically, fight or flight. This is all in the book, by the way, How to Live Fearlessly Feral. Go there, read it. It's all in the book. Self-awareness. We get to know who and what we are. We get to recognize how fear shows up in our life, and we get to know what we do when it does. Now, here's where the humility comes in. It means that we stop when we're in that fear before we take the action, and we don't do the stupid stuff that we would typically do when we're in fear. We stop. We go within. We find the peace. We become willing and teachable. And we learn what that fear has to teach us. And we connect some more and again. And from that connection, we get that strength with the God of our understanding. And from that strength and from that power, we change. And then we go out into the world not feeling that fear anymore. We don't feel it anymore. So I hope I've given you enough evidence to really take a good look at what humility could look like in your life. And just this morning, I'm working on this article, this podcast about humility, and I get a weekly email from an author named Tama Keeves, and I adore her. And in this email today, she says, real success comes from the humility to start wherever you can and remember the magnitude within you. Success comes from the humility to start where you're at. And then remember who and what you really are. Remember the magnitude within you. Humility is not about shrinking yourself. It's about right-sizing yourself in relationship to the infinite. In the teachings of Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind, humility is the quiet recognition that there is one life, one mind, one power expressing as all things, including you. So rather than I am small, humility then becomes I am not separate. Humility is I am one, one with the one. In this framework, humility actually empowers you. It allows you to become a clearer vessel for creativity and love and wisdom. In this framework, you don't diminish yourself, you align yourself with the one. It's less at it's less like, look how unimportant I am. That's false humility. And more like, look how beautifully life expresses itself through me when I get out of the way. It's a bit paradoxical, I know. Just stick with it, it'll come. Humility is not bowing down, it's stepping aside so that something vast and wild and sacred can live through you. Humility is not bowing your head in submission. Humility is loosening your grip on needing to be right or recognized or in control or the center of everything. Humility is the radical act of trusting the movement of life itself. And here's where humility becomes very, very powerful in our life. When we release the need to control the flow, we become available. When we release the need to be the source, we become a conduit for it. When we release the need to elevate ourselves, we don't have to defend ourselves anymore. We just are. Fearlessly feral humility walks into a room without needing to prove anything and leaves having changed everything. Not because it demanded attention, but because it carried presence. This kind of humility will allow you to tell the truth without arrogance. It will allow you to stand firm without being rigid. It will allow you to love without sacrificing yourself. And it will allow you to act without needing applause. Humility is not weak. It is very, very strong and very powerful. Humility is about removing everything false so that what is real can finally breathe. If you want to live fearlessly feral, you don't need to make yourself bigger. Just simply know that you are the place where God shows up. Embrace humility as I have defined it here and watch your life blossom and grow into something more beautiful than you ever could have imagined. So that's my take on humility, people. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. There's a lot here. There's going to be a transcript. There's a transcript somewhere. Read it if it helps you to read rather than listen. Do both. And if Fearlessly Feral speaks to your wild and authentic spirit, I would very much appreciate your support. And you can support in a number of ways through a donation or membership or by subscribing on my Substack feed. Supporting what feeds your soul is what helps it grow stronger. Until then, I know you are staying wild and awake and free and living fearlessly feral. And there's links at the end of this podcast to buy the book and support in numerous ways, whether it's through a membership or a donation, or simply subscribing for free at my Substack page. And I love you. I thank you very much for listening. And again, I am knowing fearlessly feral living for me and for you. Thank you so much.